Think about it. They know literally everything happening in everyone's lives. They're always watching, always completely up to date on the latest drama or life updates, yet their own feed has been totally silent for weeks, maybe even months. It's kind of like they're a ghost in the machine. You know for a fact they're there, but they leave absolutely zero trace of themselves. So why do they actively prefer this absolute secrecy?
Section 1. The silent observer phenomenon.
Look, there is a massive, fundamental difference in how we interact with digital spaces. On one hand, you have your typical active poster, highly visible, actively hunting for that social feedback. But then you have the silent observer. They are a completely different psychological beast. They're quiet, and their primary drive isn't to be seen at all. It's a profound desire to just gather information. Actually, it's basically a completely inverted way of using the exact same platform. Now, people usually just assume, oh, they're just shy. But psychology reveals it's so much deeper than that. There are actually 5 distinct cognitive and emotional drivers behind this: observation, overthinking, privacy, validation, and safety. We're going to completely reframe this quietness as a highly deliberate choice. This is the exact architecture of why silent observers actively prefer secrecy. Let's move to Section 2, observation over visibility. For some people, simply gathering information and tracking behavioral changes is way more psychologically rewarding than being the center of attention. They genuinely love seeing what you're up to. They track how people behave, they notice what's changed in their social circles, they have all the curiosity of a normal user, but absolutely zero desire to flip that camera around. For them, playing the observer is just fundamentally more satisfying than being visible. And that leads us to the second driver, overthinking. Imagine the intense internal monologue these folks have before even thinking about uploading something. Is this actually worth sharing? What are people going to think? Does this even matter in the grand scheme of things, or is it literally just a picture of my overpriced avocado toast? It's just a constant, exhausting evaluation process. And here's the inevitable result of all that questioning. Because of this paralyzing evaluation loop, most potential posts never even make it online. They might snap the photo, they might even open the app to post it, but then the analysis kicks in. The more they analyze the value of their content, the less they actually share. Their secrecy isn't necessarily planned, it's often just the byproduct of a highly analytical mind stopping itself right in its tracks. Section 3, privacy and social validation. So this brings us to driver number 3, and it's a huge one. They place a massive premium on privacy. Not everyone believes that every waking moment belongs on the internet. These individuals find immense value in keeping their meaningful daily life, their real relationships, and their personal wins completely unshared. Psychologically, they just feel so much more comfortable when their meaningful experiences stay private. Their secrecy is essentially a protective boundary for the things they care about most. Plus, we have to look at the fourth driver, social validation. Unlike folks who actively broadcast their entire lives, silent observers just do not find social rewards like likes, replies, or attention very motivating at all. For a lot of us, that little ping of a notification is a massive dopamine hit, but for the silent observer, total non-motivator. They are completely capable of enjoying a deeply meaningful experience without needing a digital audience to prove that it happened. The crucial takeaway here is that because they don't crave that constant feedback to validate their existence, they're entirely freed up to just quietly consume content. They can watch others all day long without ever feeling that weird internal pressure to reciprocate. They are observing the social exchange without feeling any need to pay into it with their own personal data. Section 4, the shield of the screen. Let's think about the actual mechanics of social media for a second. Watching stories? That requires virtually zero emotional risk. You just tap and you watch. But posting, that is an entirely different beast. Posting makes you highly visible. It inherently opens you up to unsolicited opinions and exposes you directly to public judgment. The silent observer is acutely aware of this dynamic. They know for a fact that sharing is an emotional gamble. So psychology shows that many people avoid sharing not because their heads are empty or because they have nothing interesting to say, but because the background is a crucial shield of emotional safety. Staying behind the screen, hidden away from the algorithm and the judgment of their peers, it just feels safer. Their secrecy is literally their armor. Which brings us to our final point, Section 5, the power of secrecy. We really need to dismantle the stereotypes right now. We've got to stop viewing these ghost watchers as just insecure or antisocial. That is a total misreading of their psychology. Instead, we need to recognize them for what they are: highly private, deeply reflective individuals. They aren't hiding out of fear, they simply lack the interest to broadcast their lives online. They actively choose secrecy because it perfectly aligns with their reflective nature. There's a saying that I think absolutely nails the core truth of this entire explainer. The people who reveal the least are often the ones observing the most. See, silence isn't an absence of engagement. It is a profound, deliberate, and highly calculated form of observation. By keeping their own lives a secret, they free up all their cognitive bandwidth to understand the behaviors of the world around them. Once you grasp that, you'll start noticing the hidden psychology behind everyday behavior that most people completely miss. So, I'm going to leave you with this to chew on regarding your own digital habits. The next time you open up an app today, ask yourself, are you just broadcasting for a little validation, or are you stepping back and quietly observing the patterns everyone else is missing? Keep that in mind and remember those quiet followers who are watching your every move. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep observing.